Good morning and welcome to First Steps. I hope you've had a good week and I hope you're okay. Now, if you remember last week, we talked about two of Jesus' followers, Paul and Silas, and they were in prison in chains and they were singing and worshipping God in prison. And then there was a huge earthquake and the chains broke and all the prisoners were free, and the jailer was worried that the prisoners would escape, but they didn't escape. And at the end, the jailer became a Christian and believed in God. So this week, we are going to have another story about something else that happened to Paul. So shall we have a look in the basket to see what's going to help us with our story this week? We have got chains. Again, another story about chains. And we've got a boat. So I wonder what the story could be about. We've got chains and we've got a boat. Shall we see what's going to happen in the story? Paul had travelled all over the place, telling people about Jesus. In each city he visited, he left behind a small group of people, a new church, people who wanted to follow Jesus. Then Paul arrived in Jerusalem. At first, things were going well. Jesus' followers were excited to see Paul and hear all about what had happened. But then, some people heard that Paul was in town and they were not happy with what Paul was teaching and doing. In fact, they were not just unhappy, they were angry. The religious leaders arrested Paul and they hurt him. Some people even wanted to kill him, but in the end, they put him in chains again, and they sent him to Rome to go on trial before the emperor. But Paul wasn't scared. He knew that God was with him and that God was in control. It was a long way to Rome, and they didn't have planes and trains and cars like we do, so Paul had to go on a boat to get there, along with some other prisoners. At first, things were going well. But then the wind changed and the journey got difficult. The boat slowed down and now it was running late to get to where it needed to go. But Paul wasn't worried. He knew that it was a tricky time to travel across the sea and that it was going to get dangerous and that they should stay where they were. So he went to the men in charge and he told them, "It's going to get dangerous. We should stay where we are." But they didn't listen to Paul. They ignored his advice and carried on sailing across the sea. The sea was choppy and the wind was beginning to blow. But the sailors thought that they were going to be okay. But soon, just as Paul had said, the sea got very dangerous. A hurricane blew up and the boat was blown across the water. The sailors did everything they could. They threw an anchor into the sea, they tied ropes around the boat to try and hold it together, and they even started throwing cargo overboard to make the boat lighter. But the storm went on for days and days and days. All the food had run out and all the sailors were hungry. And it looked like everyone might die. But Paul knew that God was with him and would keep them all safe. He stood up in front of everyone and he told them, "Last night an angel came and spoke to me. He told me not to be afraid and that all of us will be safe. The ship will be destroyed. We must run aground, but all of us will get to Rome safely." And again, what Paul said would happen, happened. The ship ran aground on an island called Malta. At first, some of the sailors only thought about themselves, but Paul told the men in charge that everyone had to stick together to be saved. So they stuck together and everyone was safe. When they got onto dry land, the people who lived on the island looked after them, And 3 months later, Paul got on another ship so that he could finally get to Rome. Wow, that must have been so scary, mustn't it? Being in the ship and being in the big storm and then running aground and the ship being destroyed. But Paul wasn't scared because he knew that God was with him and he trusted God even though he was in a really hard and scary and tricky situation. He trusted God, that God was with him and that God was going to help him. And we can trust in God too. He is with us in the good situations and in the scary ones. He is always with us and he will help us through those situations. And now we're going to have craft time. So this week for craft we are going to make a boat, but it's up to you to choose how you want to make your boat. So as you can see, I made a little paper boat here and a big paper boat. So you could go online with your mummy or your daddy and type in origami boat, and then your mummy or your daddy can help you to make a boat like that, and maybe you could decorate it. Or you could make a boat out of things that you find in your house. And so you could make a little tub and a stick and a mast out of things that you can find at home. Or if you want to, you could build it with some bricks. Maybe you've got Duplo or Lego at home, and maybe you could build a boat out of some bricks. Or if you're feeling really adventurous, you could find a really big box and you could try and make it look like a boat, like this one, because this boat is actually a cardboard box. So it's up to you this week to decide how you're going to make your craft. And I would love to see some pictures on the WhatsApp group of how you've been making your boats this week. So get your mummies to send us pictures so that everybody can see your wonderful boats. So we're going to pray now, and I would like you to join in with the prayer. So I'm going to say some words, and then if you can join in with the words afterwards. And there's also some actions, so make sure you join in with the actions as well. Are you ready? Dear God, thank you that you are with us. Thank you that you help us. Help us to trust in you. Amen. Thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you have a really good week, and we'll see you next week. And don't forget to put your pictures of your boats on the WhatsApp group, because we would love to see what you've been up to. Bye, everybody.